Hello, good evening, Karen. How are you?
Hi, teacher. I'm fine, thank you. And you? How are you?
Great. I'm fine. Thanks for asking, Karen. I'm feeling better, so I'm ready to work today. So let's continue with this article. We're talking about the connection or the possible link between past pandemics, right, and the Parkinson. So to go to the next part, we're going to do something here, Karen, that is called scanning, right? It means you don't have to read everything, right? It means that you read this before. So now you only need to look for specific information to answer these questions. Okay, so the first question is related to the first paragraph. That is this one over here, this paragraph. And you only need to tell me, perhaps you remember, but why are they mentioning the Spanish influenza in the first paragraph? What is the purpose of mentioning that pandemic there?
Okay, because the researchers not 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 that how can I say this notice the an unusual trend that is link with this disease, the Parkinson.
Correct, exactly. Now, if I ask you, what is that connection, the correlation between the Spanish influenza and the Parkinson? What happened to the people who had the Spanish influenza?
They had two or three uh, possibility, no, two or three more possibility to develop this disease.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I think we're working good over there. That is correct. So there's a connection, right? A possible connection between the Spanish influenza and Parkinson. Yes, because these people are two or three times more likely. It means, as you said, right? It's more possible that they can develop this disease. So good. That's the first part. Here, I think I don't have any specific questions. We have information from the 1385. That's a very long time ago, right? But we know that here also they are saying that there is a possible or there is an increased risk, right, of disease to the pandemic. So this is only like reinforcing the knowledge on the first paragraph. Okay, so we know that one. It was important to mention that again, so that now we can go to the next part, that is this one over here. First, we're only going to read this paragraph, please, Karen. Let's do it.
Okay. In recent years, an ele- elevated risk of Parkinson's has also been identified in the survivors of outbreaks of HIV, West Nile virus, Japanese encephalitis, Koshaki, Western Echini virus, and the Epstein virus. Neurolo- mm, neurologist, neurologists attempting to understand why this happens believe that each of these viruses are capable of crossing into the brain and in some cases damaging the fragile structures which control the coordination of movement, known as the basal ganglia, in initiating a process of degeneration which can lead to Parkinson.
Thank you very much, Karen. So here we have a lot of new vocabulary. I know in terms mainly to types of viruses and so on, right? Again, I'm not an expert on medicine on these viruses, but we're only going to focus on the words that we need to pronounce good in English, and we're going to try to understand all that group of viruses as something that has a connection with this topic. Okay, but first let's go before the explanation, let's work with this so that you can remember some of these words. Remember, this is not going to be HIV, right? Remember that you need to pronounce letter by letter. So this is HIV, right? HIV. Let's repeat that one, please.
HIV.
HIV, right? So like the one before, right, or yesterday, if it's an acronym, you have to read letter by letter, right? So it's HIV in this case. This one, it was not that bad, but this is going to be like I, so it's encephalitis.
Encephalitis.
Good, right? So you know that that one is related to the brain, right, to the encephalon. Then this is equine.
Equine.
Equine. You know that this is related to horses, right? Or those type of animals, right? So this is a virus from the Western that is related to an animal, okay? Equine virus. Then this is only the name of perhaps the person that discovered this virus, right? So it's good. Now, this is a profession, right? So if it's psychologist, right, then it's going to be neurologist, okay? So the stress has to be in this part. Neurologist. Let's repeat that one, please.
Neurologist.
Good, right? Because they are professionals and this is a person, a group of people. Then this was good. In the first time, I think you read it in plural. I don't remember very well. But remember, virus is one virus, but many is going to be viruses, right? Viruses. Let's repeat that one, please.
Viruses.
Good. So in the meantime, because now you're going to explain, it says, right, neurologists attempting to understand why this happens believe that each of these viruses are, and this word is going to be very important here. How do you read this one?
Capable.
Capable. Good. Good. You made a small mistake the first time, but now it's good. Capable. So these viruses can cross into the brain, and that's very important. That's why we're going to see there's a connection, right, between viruses and problems in the brain, because they can cross into the brain, all those viruses, including the HIV, right? The HIV is the most, let's say, famous, I know it's not the best word, but the most famous virus around the world. Then this is only going to be like A, so it's basal. Let's
Basal.
repeat that one, please. Good. Basal, exactly, right, a part in the brain that is related to movement. And this, remember, is like initiate. So if it's initiate, this is going to be initiating. All right, initiating, starting. So let's repeat that
Initiating.
one, please.
Initiating.
Initiating, right? So initiating, starting, beginning, right? So that's it. In terms of pronunciation, that's it. Now, I read a part that is very important to understand here, but now I would like you to explain the same or everything in general that you believe is important, Karen. What can you tell me about this paragraph?
Mm, eh, the in this case, the neurology, no, again, neurologist, I think,
Yes,
uh,
in that part, right? I'm going to reinforce that one. It's always going to be like in the middle, like neurologist, neurologist.
neurologist, neurologist, um, uh, found that the uh, uh, the virus are countable or uncountable.
No, in this case, they are countable. If you believe that not a one virus, right? You're not talking about the nano thing called virus. You're calling virus as a type of disease, all right? So when you call virus to the idea, it's going to be countable. Okay, but if you talk about the matter, right, of course it's something non-countable. But in this case, it's countable. Okay, one virus, two viruses.
Okay. Uh, found that many types of viruses uh, uh, caused a damage in the brain. So this damage is linked with the coordination of the movement that people has. No, in this case, people is many.
Yes, it's always going to be plural, so it's going to be that people have.
The people have.
They have, right? So good, great. I think it's good. So all these viruses, and here you have a list again, right? I'm not an expert. We are not experts here, perhaps, but you know the HIV. You know what is that virus, right? In Spanish.
VIH.
Exactly. Right. So you have the HIV. So it means that also people with HIV, you know, that they can survive many more years and perhaps even they are going to be longer than we expect because of the treatments, right? But they and all the people who got this virus, right, and West Nile virus, of course, it comes from Africa. This is located, of course, in Japan, right? The Japanese encephalitis, the Coxsackie. I don't know what type of virus that is. I never heard of that one. Okay, but this one is related to an animal and so on and so forth, right? So all these viruses were able to cross into the brain, right? Causing damage, as you said, that is very good in many structures. Here they are talking about only this structure, right? The basal ganglia. But there are many other structures in the brain that can be damaged. And that, right, damage can generate little by little, right? What? Parkinson. But only one possibility, right? They can produce many other diseases. But that's perhaps the one that is related to all these viruses. So I think it's great. I just wanted to reinforce that one, Karen, which was very good. So we can continue because in the next part we have something very interesting. But I want to know if you have any questions about these words, Karen.
What's the meaning of outbreak?
Outbreak is the starting period of time of a pandemic, of an epidemic, or of a war. Okay, the outbreak is like the burst, like the it's I'm going to use a metaphor. Okay, it's like the explosion at the beginning, but it's when a pandemic, for example, started now, right? It wasn't on China first. That is the outbreak. Okay, the outbreak of the coronavirus was China. It means that's the first period of time and the first location on which the virus started to spread around the world. All right, that's an outbreak. So it's the starting period of time for a pandemic, for an epidemic, and for a war. All right. What else, Gary?
Um, um, I think that the word of I think that only. Oh wait. Mm, I think that only this one.
All right, good. Yes, because besides those words, right, in the viruses, I think they explain that in a very interesting way, but it's very understandable, right? So good. Let's go then to the next part. Here we have something also very interesting, Karen. That short introduction and the paragraph, please. Let's read that information.
Okay, now scientists are keen to monitor whether the current pandemic will also trigger a higher rate of Parkinson cases in decades to come. We don't know, but we need to consider that this could become the case, says Patrick Branding, a Parkinson's a researcher at the Van Andel Institute in Grand Rapids, Michigan. There are several studies highlighting that people who have recovered from COVID often have long-term central nervous system deficits, including loss of sense of smell and taste, brain fog, depression, and anxiety. The numbers are troubling.
Great. Thank you very much. So now only those three words, but because of that, now let's try to explain first, please, Karen. All right, before practicing those words and before going to vocabulary that we don't get. What can you tell me in general? What are they talking about in this part of the article, Karen?
Yeah, well, the scientists are analyzing the current pandemic, so they can found that the people who had COVID and then recovered, yes, uh, they have uh, many problems like lose of the scent, of the smell, and taste, and others. If I can say an others or an other.
No, if you have a list and you have more ideas in plural, you have to say an others. You only say other if you're going to mention a word in plural. So you can say an other symptoms, okay,
Uh,
and other symptoms. But if you say only the word, you have to say others.
okay.
Okay, good, great. Okay, very good. Yes. So they are analyzing now the possibility that COVID also, right, might get into the brain to cause certain damage, right? Because we have these symptoms, right? You can call them symptoms. I don't know if you had COVID or someone in your family had, but you know, right? You have a loss of smell. You cannot smell very well, and the taste, right? Anything taste, or yes, the food doesn't have a specific taste. Then you have brain fog, right? It's like confusion, or you forget things, or your memory is not working good. And again, you can say
Teacher.
yes. Can you hear me, Karen?
Now, yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you were able to. What was the last part that you were able to hear, Karen? Let me
the,
know, please.
the brain fog.
Okay, so I was explaining, right? But you can hear me well now, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so brain fog, it means confusion, forgetting things easily, all right? Being like there again in a confused status, all right? You forget things again, you get confused because of many things. That's brain fog, all right? Then you have depression. The next word we're going to practice that together in a minute after the pronunciation exercise, but that's it in general, right? So it means that there are something that might be related to COVID, and perhaps that's going to have a long lasting effect, right? It means an effect that is going to be there for many years, but we don't know. And actually, in the next part, they're going to say that perhaps that's not the case for the COVID. But I just wanted again to reinforce that one. So first, before you can ask me about any words that you want, because here are very interesting words, Karen, let's repeat these words. Remember, this is, of course, in English you break the rules every time, but let's say that this rule is followed like 75 or 80% of the time. Okay, so it's interesting to know this rule. And if you remember, when you have a double consonant, the vowel before the consonant is going to be like the vowel like in Spanish. Okay, so instead of I, this is only going to be E. All right, so this is going to be trigger. Let's repeat that one, please.
Trigger.
Trigger, good. Then this one, remember, we saw that yesterday. This is like A, so this is going to be decades.
decades.
Decades, good. This one, the first time was good, but then you repeated in your explanation and you read it like lu, like ooh. How do you read this word?
Luz.
Huh? But if you follow this rule, remember, if you have a double consonant, the vowel is the
Lo.
Spanish vowel. Los, exactly. Good. Okay, so lose is the verb, Lose, right? The verb. And los is the noun, right? And this word is going to be anxiety. Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Good. So now you let me know, please, what questions do you have? I'm going to show you some words that I would like you to know, but I want to know first if you have any questions about any of these words.
What's the meaning of king?
Okay. Keen is when you are very excited about something. When you say, now scientists are keen to monitor weather, pam, 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 it means that they really want to do it. Okay. They are excited about that. They want to do it. They have the desire to do something. Okay. That's when you say you are keen to and you use a verb. Okay. I'm keen to travel, let's say. It means that you really have the desire to travel. Okay. That's keen to. What else?
Mm, trigger.
Ah, trigger, right? Remember like E?
Yes.
So trigger, you know what's well, I'm going to use the Latin word, right? A pistol, a weapon, right? You know what's a weapon. The
Mhm.
weapon has,
Okay.
if you press the trigger, you shoot.
Yes,
Okay,
it
so to trigger as a verb, it means to start something. Okay, to start something with a lot of force. That's the trigger in this case.
okay.
Good. What else? Any other words, perhaps?
Mm, um, I no.
All right, good. So I know we're over the time, but I just want to finish with this one, this more, because here we're going to have interesting information and perhaps it's going to be good news. Let's finish with this one, please, Kat.
Why SARS? How can I read code?
Yes, in this case, you can, if you want to spell, but this is actually not an acronym, right? See, it's not an acronym, so you only can say the SARS-CoV-2.
Okay, SARS-CoV-2 can invade brain tissue. The scientific jury remains open on whether it will contribute to neurodegenerative disease. Coronaviruses are generally known as hit and run viruses because they tend to cause fairly short disease, even if this proves deadly in some cases. In contrast, DNA viruses such as Epstein-Barr can linger permanently in the body and are more associated with the long-term illness.
Great. Okay, very good. Now, shortly, again, before going to those words, what can you tell me about this part of the article, Karen? If you realize this is kind of it's good news, right? But how can you explain this part?
Uh, I think that uh, this virus uh, uh, doesn't have more lethal or more damage after people get it.
Exactly. And remember, before doesn't, you need always one subject, right? In this case, you can only say it, right? It doesn't, you can say that the COVID, right? So good, great, yes. It means, but we don't know, right? It's good news because so far it seems that this is a hit and run virus. It means, right? What is hit and run? You hit and you leave. Okay, it means it's very short. It's only one contact. It happens to you, and then that's it. There are no more lasting effects, right? So good. So it means that so far the coronavirus is something that doesn't have effects that linger on permanently, right, in our lives. But that's only something we're going to know after many years, right? At least after some years, so that we see if there are consequences or not. But so far, it seems to be good. So again, let's repeat these words. Then you tell me there are some important words, and we finish. This one is going to be like A, so it's going to be invade.
Invade.
Good. Then this is like neuro, right? Neurodegenerative. So if you read it together, neurodegenerative, the stress is here. Neurodegenerative. Let's read that one, please.
Neurodegenerative.
Degenerative. Good. This one, you read it as U, but remember here is more
Run.
like a run.
Run.
Run. Exactly right. And the past is like a run, run, run. Right? Run, run, run. Then this is okay, but then here you read it differently. Be careful. Remember, anytime you have AU in English, it's like in French, it's O, right? So this is because, and then they tend to cause. Okay, O and O. So let's read these two words, please, Karen. Because and cause.
Because. Cause.
Cause, exactly. And then this word, how do you read this word?
Deadly.
One more time, please.
Deadly.
More than that one, again, this is an exception, right? Many exceptions in English. The A and A and sorry, E and A usually is E. In this case, it's only going to be like death, right? You know, muerte, death, and in this case is deadly. It means lethal. Okay,
Deadly.
deadly. Exactly. So that's it. Here, some important words that you might take into account, Karen, for your list can be tissue, right? Like tejido, that's the tissue. Then here you might have fairly, okay, fairly short. It means that if you say that's a fairly short disease, it's only put an emphasis. If you say that's fairly good for you, it means that it's good enough for you. All right, fairly, it means that it's enough, what you need. All right, enough, what you need, but as an adverb. And deadly, you know that one, right? Lethal, but it's an important word to take into account. And I think that's it here. All right, that's it here. So I don't know if you have any questions or comments before finishing. Let me know, please.
No.
All right, so you know that you can finish reading this one when you have the time, and you can add more vocabulary. That's already in the
Just
right
classwork.
a classroom, right? Unit 3. So let's finish there. Then, please, as always, I'm going to share this one with you, Karen,
Okay.
and we can finish now.
Okay, teacher.
Thank you very much. Have a good night and see you tomorrow, Karen. Bye bye.
Okay, teacher. Bye.